So, Merry Christmas. Today, I actually wanted to do a video about my 1 year anniversary with my Panasonic G85. It's amazing. Time has flown by, and I can tell you that when I was looking at coming up with this video, I kind of wanted to just talk about some of the things I really love about the system and why I'm definitely sticking with it, and then some of the things I dislike. And I will tell you the dislikes, they were kind of a stretch because there's not a whole heck of a lot that I don't like about the G85. But I figured if I could do 5 likes, I could stretch and try to at least get 5 dislikes. So starting out with like number 1, the build quality is amazing. The weather sealing, I've had this thing out in the rain, mist, snow, you name it. Whether it's down in South America or in Colorado, in the dust, like there's no issues. Nothing gets in, the thing works fine, and you can just tell. I mean, it really is built like a tank. And frankly, the small cage that I have on here, it's only on here for accessories, so whenever I do shoot video I can attach other things, lights, etc. But it's not really for protection, because I think this thing does a lot, or it protects. It's built well, so it doesn't necessarily need something to protect it. Number 2 is going to be the video footage. The video footage out of this is phenomenal. If you've watched my last 3 or 4 videos prior to filming this one, I've actually been shooting in Cinelight D and V, and it looks amazing to me. I mean, it gives you a really flat color profile, so it makes it so much easier to edit and to do color correction. As a matter of fact, right now on the M3 that I'm currently shooting this video on, I uploaded the Technicolor cinestyle just to see if I can get kind of close to what this thing does with Cinelight D and Cinelight V. So yeah, please feel leave your comments about that. But this right here, I didn't have to do anything special. It already came loaded on the camera. Unlike the M3, I actually had to upload it to the EOS utility. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was still an extra step. 2 was picture quality, or 3 is the picture quality. So pictures from this camera to me are pretty amazing. I don't see a big difference between your Micro Four Thirds and APS-C, and I get it. There's going to be certain instances, situations where you shoot where one sensor may have an advantage over the other, but for what I use it for, which is primarily outdoors, street photography, and I take a lot of ceremonies, like military ceremonies, I think it is more than sufficient, without a doubt. So if anything, I'm looking at upgrading the lens to get something just a little bit faster, maybe a 1.2 f1.2 or a 1.4, just to play around with, but I don't think I necessarily need it. Plus I'm getting something with a little wider angle too, just for my video and stuff, as well as astrophotography. But moving on to number 3, and that would be your stabilization or destabilization. 5-axis stabilization. I keep hearing that they have the best in the game, and yeah, I would have to agree. I've used other cameras, and this thing, to be quite honest with you, I even thought about getting a gimbal at one time, but if you got stabilization in the lens and you also have it in the body, that 5-axis, I really think that if you focused on your ninja walk, I honestly don't think you would need a gimbal. To me, a gimbal seems like it would be overkill for the stuff that I do. But if you had a gimbal and you end up taking some of that stuff and turning it off, I think it would probably look comparable. But I'm curious to see what it would look like if I had the 5-axis or the M-body and then also the lens stabilization turned on, and I had it on a gimbal. If that would be overkill, or if maybe the camera's going to sit there and try to adjust because the gimbal's trying to, I don't know. But needless to say, I don't need a gimbal, so I think it's fine just the way that it is. The next thing and the last thing I would talk about would be the features and handling. The controls are very intuitive. The menu is pretty easy to navigate. I mean, honestly, you turn this bad boy around, I'm gonna focus in on it, and look, without even looking at it, I can tell you that, that's the menu right there. And then you can just scroll through. Sorry, I gotta keep turning my computer back on. My screensaver keeps kicking in, and that's where my notes are. But it is really easy to navigate. I mean, it's straightforward and it's clear. The screen looks wonderful. The other thing I like about this is when I jump to another Lumix, the layouts are very similar. I mean, I picked up the G9 the other day, and I also picked up and played with the G85. There's extra stuff that it does, but it wasn't a stretch. I feel like, honestly, after about 5 or 6 minutes, I was good. I felt just as comfortable with that camera as I did with this one. Hopefully Panasonic doesn't change this at any time. But yeah, I really love the handling and the features. I've been able to change stuff on the fly, not even have to necessarily think about it. It is where it should be, and that's pretty awesome. So now that we talked about my 5 likes, we had number 1, build quality and weather sealing. We had number 2, the video footage with cinelight D, cinelight V. 3 was your picture quality. 4 was stabilization, and then of course 5 was features and handling. Now we're going to move on to our dislikes. So the dislikes are, once again, they're a stretch, and feel free to disagree in the comments, but the Micro Four Thirds system, the lens prices to me are a little outrageous. And I say that because, I mean, we only have about 50 lenses to choose from right now. Hopefully that goes up, and I think that it slowly is. But when I look at that, and I look at what I want, like for instance, my next lens, I want it to be wide. And the 2 that I have on the list, there's like a variation in price. But the one that I really like, it's f1.2 Ollie, and it's 17 millimeter. And that thing is like $1,000. And then when I compare it to like the Sigma DC series, the let me see, that one is a 1.4 millimeter, or excuse me, it is a 1.4 f-stop 16 millimeter lens. It's like $440. So big difference. And from what I've read, it doesn't really seem like performance-wise there's that much of a difference. Granted, a lot of people say that the Olympus has a way better build quality. I get it, but double the price for the lens is just kind of crazy to me. Who knows? Maybe eventually we get more lenses, the prices start to come down. I've even looked at some of the, other third-party manufacturers that I'm not really that impressed with their stuff, but who knows? I think the other one I have on the list, it's way faster. Well, I'd say that. It was the Voigtlander 0.195, but that one, it didn't seem like it was as sharp at 0.95. It seems like when you went back up to 1.2, it was like a little bit better, but I don't know. The Voigtlander isn't weather seal, the Ollie, and then also the Sigma is, so that's the main reason why those 2 are on the list and the Voigtlander isn't. So number 2 for dislikes would be the autofocus in video. I've been playing around with this, and granted, I use manual focus for my videos to include what I'm doing right now. So every once in a while you'll see me reach towards the screen just to adjust if I got the camera in the frame or if I got it just pointed right at me. But it would be nice to not have to do that. I played around with my camera settings. I think I'm getting there, and when I say that, there's like hacks for G series to try to make autofocus better. They call it autofocus fix. I don't really think it's a fix, but what I've kind of done is like messed around with the settings just to see if I can make it a little bit better, and I'm getting there. So what I'll probably do when I get to the point where it looks, or I should say it works the way that I think it should, or this is the best I can get, if it's an improvement, I'll probably put up a video on what I have or what I'm setting or how I have it set, and then you feel free to try it out. Once again, not a big deal for me for video because I use manual. And then I have used autofocus when I'm out shooting. I usually use manual for that too, but I actually think it works fine for stills. The other thing is the price. So the third dislike is the price. When I bought this camera back a year ago, it had just went up. So it was $7.99. It jumped up to like $9.99. Now it's back down to the $7.99. I don't understand camera prices at all, and I'm trying to. But what I look at is this camera's been around for a little while, and you also have the G9 out now and the G85, and I would think that this camera would have come down more, but I don't know. The G7 had the same issue. When I started looking at Micro Four Thirds, the G7 is where I started. Granted, I moved on to this camera because some of the things that I mentioned about why I like it, the G7 didn't have. But the G7 at the time went down to like $499, then it went up to like $599. Now it's back down to $499. So once again, don't really understand why or how these prices are set, but that's the thing, I guess. Who knows? Maybe eventually it'll come down further. I really don't know, but it would be nice if it does get down to maybe G7 prices to get a second one of these. It's a backup camera, or possibly pick up one to just use because it's not the latest and greatest. But what I will say, even though that price is kind of crazy, at $7.99 with a kit lens, good luck trying to find something that meets or beats this camera. And you can put whatever you want up, whether it's through Canon M3 down in the comments, say that's a better camera. I can argue that with you all day, as well as other people can argue it with you. I think this is a phenomenal value. You know, like I said, the stabilization, the 4K, yeah, the profiles, like everything that you need is here. The weather sealing, you can do a lot with this camera. So number 4 for dislikes is going to be no headphone jack. It would be really, really awesome to have a headphone jack, just to be able to monitor my sound when I'm recording. I haven't had an issue with that because I have a wave editor that I use in post. If I do have a problem, I can fix the sound. But if I knew prior to, you know, ending my recording or whatever, that there's a problem, maybe I can do something on site, so I don't even have to worry about it in post. But yeah, it would be nice just to have that as an option. And I know that, you know, newer cameras, so like the G9 and then also the G85 and the G85S actually has a headphone and a microphone jack. Let me see. And then moving on to my last dislike, it would be your LCD screen, or the LCD screen. In a perfect world, that would be just a little bit larger. And here's the deal. It's not a deal breaker. And it works fine. What kind of messed me up, though, was I used the G9. And that screen was fabulous. I'm like, man, sit this in my living room and just look at it like a LCD screen, you know, watch TV on it. It's beautiful. And even like the resolution on that screen, way better. So it would be nice to have something like that on this screen. But once again, not a deal breaker. This screen is big enough for what I use it for. And the reason why I'm actually saying that I would like to have something like that is because there is a, I do the manual focus peaking. So I'm looking at a screen right now that's actually kind of small on top of this camera. And I'm just making sure that as I go in and out of focus, yeah, I use the screen. The larger the screen, the better, especially when you wear glasses like me. You don't see 20/20 to begin with. So just having a bigger screen is an advantage. Okay, so that summed it up. My 5 dislikes, they were the prices of the lens, the autofocus in video, the price, the fact that it should go down, but it still is a good deal considering what you're getting. No headphone jack was number 4, and then also the LCD screen could be a little bit bigger was number 5. That pretty much wraps it up. Overall, this has been an awesome camera, and I can highly recommend it. If you're getting into photography and you say, hey, look, I've been looking at Micro Four Thirds, and I like what they offer, because there's advantages and disadvantages to all systems, this is the one I would say to get. Frankly, if you didn't have a larger budget and you only had about $499 to spend, I would definitely put the G7 on the list too. Like I said, there's a few things that you don't get with the G7 that you get with the G85, and to me makes it worth the upgrade. But it depends on what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be shooting. And then on top of that, the other thing that I would add, and this is one of the reasons why I went to Micro Four Thirds, instead of reading all the reviews, and I did that by the way, and watched a lot of reviews and talked to a lot of people, I looked at footage, and I'd recommend anybody else do the exact same thing. You know, if you're going to go buy a camera, you know what you want, you narrowed down the list. You know, you can go to YouTube, you can go to DP Review, look at the steals, man, look at some of the stuff, the samples that they put up, you know, and let that help you make up your mind. You know, not saying you're going to get out there and you're going to shoot the same sort of photography, because it still is art, but you know what that sensor, that system is capable of, at the very least. You know, to me, that would be where I would start after I narrowed down what it was that I wanted. Because I know that if I want to take a lot of action, fast-moving stuff, and then all of a sudden I go look, and everything I see that camera's trying to do, it's struggling. You know, whether it's like a rolling shutter or you know, there's a lot of blur, or you know, whatever the case may be. Just figure out what it is you're going to be shooting, and then go try to find a footage that's very similar to that, or just go look at footage in general. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why I almost bought the G7, because I don't do music videos, but I watched a lot of music videos because there are a lot of people that are shooting music videos with the G7. $499 camera, and they're shooting music videos. And if you go into YouTube and you look at some of that footage, you will be blown away. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. In any case, feel free, click like If you dig this video, subscribe, please. If you have comments, just leave them down below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Other than that, have a Merry Christmas. Signing out.